Welcome back to the Pennsylvania Railroad Middle Division. Today we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent and talk about modular railroading. This past weekend I was down at the Timonium show. It's actually called the Great Scale Model Train Show, but most people call it the Timonium show in Timonium, Maryland. And they have several modular layouts that set up regularly, and I thought, maybe I could do a little feature comparing and contrasting the different styles of modules that people are building. Each of these groups follows a certain standard. Sometimes they are their own standards, which are proprietary. Other times they follow published standards. Those standards typically talk about how wide a module can be, how tall it is, how deep it is, where the track centers are to meet between modules, how the modules connect together. They might be clamps, they might be bolts, they might be dowels. How the track is powered. Is it DC, DCC, or is it capable of doing both? Are there backdrops on the layout? Are there standards about lighting or what scenery products are used? So let's take a walk around the train show and look at some of these different layouts, and I'll point out some of the differences. Enjoy. Our first stop is the Sipping and Switching Society of North Carolina. They don't come to Timonium very often, and in this show they only brought a very, very basic oval setup. They have a custom specification, and they use folding table legs as their standard, and they have a set height. But their open specification allows for tracks to meander anywhere on the modules as long as they meet at a common point between a set of owners' modules. In other words, if an owner has 3 or 4 modules, the outside edges of those 4 connected together must meet the specification for joining with other modules. I've seen setups of the Sipping and Switching Society where they've actually had grade elevation changes, where one route might go up and over another route. They can put in branches, literally a spider web of designs, and you can see how broad these curves are. One module only covers 45 degrees of a turn, so just huge radii, which makes it magnificent for running large trains. And I really wish that there was a larger layout here that I could show you. The Four Counties Society of Model Engineers has their own proprietary specification. They don't share it with anybody. No other clubs, non-members, nothing. It is very secretive. It appears to be based on the N-track standard, where the 2 main lines are positioned towards the front of the module. But their specification includes not only the height and location of where those tracks meet, but also the material used for the facade in the front and the drapes, the color of the paint on the facade, the color of the paint on the backdrop, even the scenic materials that are used, specifying by color and size. It does make for a very, very consistent appearance, which is nice. It looks good, but it's not interoperable with any other individuals or clubs. I imagine it could be used for operations, but I don't know for sure. You'll also note that every module has an overhead light, and all of the lights match for consistency. And the height of the layout is about waist high, so it's a little bit lower than some others. Pretty good. The Reading Company Technical and Historical Society is another club that has their own specification. And you'll notice they do not use rope standoffs to keep people away from the modules. They can get pretty close to look at the trains. However, they do have plexiglass protecting the edge of the layout. They also have uniform green curtains at the front of the layout, and they have their own standards for the lengths of the modules and where the main tracks need to meet. Most of the layout has 3 mainline tracks, but it is very well done, and they can participate in shows and provide layouts of different sizes. They had a gigantic layout at the 2022 Big E Railroad Hobby Show in Springfield, and they won an award as the best modular layout. I believe that's what it was called. But they do some great work here. There's a Western Maryland group that normally sets up at this show that has a very similar layout in terms of specifications, but they're not at this show, so I can't provide you with any video.
We don't normally use it on it, but I'm pretty sure it does. We have another one that does. It's not here right now. We'll use it more often.
One of the nationally recognized standards is FREMO, which is an HO specification for 1 or 2 tracks of through tracks across modules. The neat thing about FREMO is the owner can make modules of any shape that they want, as long as the end of the modules have track center lines that are compatible with the next module. So there are standards for that. But they can go in all kinds of shapes and directions, and any kind of industry tracks. Because their tracks are based on the center of the modules, they can have sidings and buildings both in front and behind the tracks. They often have dead-end branch lines like you're seeing here. They can have return loops like where we started at, and they can be set up in ovals. Quite a bit of flexibility. You'll notice they're significantly higher than the others. These modules are up around chest height, which makes it very good for working on or for operating on. These are very conducive to operating, and the modules can be freelanced, or in many cases they're based on specific prototype locations. This happens to be Capital FREMO out of the Washington, D.C. area, but they travel all over the place and set up, and they welcome other people to participate with them. Since FREMO is a standard, you don't have to necessarily be a member of one specific group to participate. Here we have another one of those return loops that I was talking about. This is making a debut at this show. They used to have just a point-to-point layout, but now they've got 2 return loops so they can run trains continuously. It's early in the show on Saturday morning, so they're still setting some things up.
Okay. Yep. Switch to reverse.
And the one neat thing that they've done, which is just around the corner that's coming up, is they've built a long bridge that connects to another Fremo layout that we'll see in just a moment. Okay, here we are at the other end of that bridge, and we've got the Northeast Corridor Historical Society. They've made an adaptation of Fremo, and they're compatible with Fremo, but their main line represents the 4-track Northeast Corridor between Washington, D.C. and New York City. A lot of the modules are just plain trackage to connect everything together, including a lot of the curves, but a lot of the modules also represent actual locations. Here's a location called Crum Lynn, and this module was actually entered in the Walder's Build a Module contest a few years ago and won an award. And now we're getting down into Gray's Ferry, which is outside of Philadelphia. This was one of their first modules, and it's got not only the interface with their own main line, but it has the capability to connect to 3 other Fremo connections. As you can see, there's a lot of flexibility in what you put on a module. There is uniformity with regards to how many degrees of curvature are on the curved modules. That's necessary so that they can create a complete circuit end-to-end, making a loop. They also have return loops that they have set up on occasion. This group has really grown over the years. It's also chest high, like the Fremo group that we saw just before. And they set up at just about every Timonium show, and they are willing to have more people join in and connect their own modules. And now for something different, I'm showing you the Maryland T-Track. T-Track was originally developed for N-scale, and this is an N-scale layout. There is a specification for HO scale. For HO scale, modules, a single module is 20 inches wide and 24 inches deep, I believe. And you can do a double module, which is 48 inches wide and 24 inches deep. And they specify standard corners. Those standard corners are sharp and unprototypical. However, the specification allows for someone to create much broader curves and different size modules, as long as it can mate with the grid of the standard modules. One thing that makes T-Track attractive is as our modeling population gets older, other modules can be very bulky, very heavy, hard to transport. These modules are relatively small and they're built very lightweight, so it's very easy for somebody well into their 70s or even 80s to bring modules to a show. And the thing that's really different with these modules is they're designed to lay flat on top of standard folding tables, so you don't have legs and all that other stuff to worry about. They literally just sit on top of the tables and plug into a standardized bus. In this example, you're seeing all kinds of scenery that really doesn't match. I imagine a club with a vision could develop standards and develop prototype locations and make this concept look very good. That wraps up this tour. I hope you've found it enjoyable.